Yeah, thanks everybody. Yeah, the business card gets a little bit longer each time that we do things, a little bit like any other government trading enterprise. Just a little bit on Pilbara Ports, I guess, just first, and who I am and where things fit in. Pilbara Ports Authority has only been around, I suppose, for 4 years now. People would know us as previously Port Hedland Port Authority, Dampier Port Authority, and other areas within the Pilbara region now coming on board. A lot of other ports down the coast. A statewide thing. Government decision to amalgamate, merge ports together, and so we pretty much merged some of the biggest ones in the world up through here. So that's where the Pilbara Ports comes from. Nothing much has changed outside of that. Same sort of personnel that are out there. My role, I'm with Pilbara Ports. I'm the Landside Operations Manager. Had that expanded into a live export manager role to, I guess, try and trigger some more interest in Port Hedland with live export through the port and facilitate diverse trades through there. So my role there has been with the port for about 10 years. Just hearing a few of the stories here from others around the traps. I've been in Hedland for about 35 years. Worn a few different hats where I've met some of you previously, and also some of your other generations, older generations that would be probably. So first came up here working with customs in the area before they changed their name again to several other things, and now Border Force. And also with a shipping agency background, managing shipping agencies in Port Hedland through there. So I guess I mentioned that through because with the live export trade through Port Hedland, there has been a long history of it. There was a period where it dwindled off there for some time, but certainly I guess the information, the knowledge, I was wearing one hat or another through that sort of period. So I guess I've been able to dispel a few myths and create a few other stories of our own out of it. So just a bit of background through there. Some of the earlier presenters today, biosecurity obviously big on everybody's front at the moment, and I don't know, I think Graham said earlier on the piece about biosecurity and things coming back from overseas. Obviously as a port environment, we're very much focused on that through, and with our previous customs hat on, having worked at Melbourne Airport for about 7 or 8 years, they're stamping passports and searching baggage. I can certainly assure you that all of those things you see on that Border Force show happen every day of the week, so nothing put up front there. So very interesting. The other people earlier than me delivering stuff, I'm sort of learning as we go along about the trade and about the different things that the impact on live export component, and obviously the wider components that everybody else is talking about through these forums. So thanks very much to Pip and Emma and the group for allowing me to speak at these and other ones and get the face out there. And as I say, I'm more than happy to talk about all sorts of other different pieces about ports and other cargoes and other different things with some interests I've seen, with abattoirs and people killing their own beef, looking for opportunities through there. So that's what ports are all about. So those discussions, we're hopeful to get into somewhere down the track. So mainly for here today though, and I do have a couple of flyers around because I wasn't sure where we were going to be, inside or outside, but I'm not a real PowerPoint person, but I've had some people prepare up some flyers for us, so maybe if I can just get your assistance to... There may be not enough there for everybody around there through, but they're just as a bit of a visual, just for a bit of information on Port Hedland and what Port Hedland can offer as a port, and some of the discussion topics, I guess, that have come up over time. So, and I don't intend to sort of go through them all bit by bit, I guess, but the main thing, I guess, is to say, well, Port Hedland's there. We're open for business for the live export trade. We actually do have a vessel loading out of Port Hedland later this month. That was confirmed very early this week, so 27th of September we'll have cattle loading out of there. So no doubt people here will have some animals on that voyage. Cattle exports. Why Port Hedland? Popped it through there. Just a few visuals. Obviously, animal welfare very much to the fore in various parts of this trade and parts of normal trade. Port Hedland's just down the road. if we've got cattle that are in the herd just down the road, seems to make sense from an animal welfare perspective. Let's not have them too far on the roads. Deliver them through in Port Hedland. The facilities are there to a degree at the moment, I guess. We're one link in the trade. Larger numbers may require some other infrastructure outside of the port, but the port is certainly very well placed to be able to accommodate shipments through. Some of the other bits and pieces in through there, I guess obviously the animal welfare does, I guess, result in cost savings. Better to have money, hard-earned money in your own pocket than elsewhere. So the less loss of condition, I guess, on animals, and obviously the transportation costs. I must admit I wasn't aware just how high they can be sometimes. So some of the figures were quoted around last year when we put a couple of shipments out through there were quite substantial savings per head. And I guess if you work that out to 1,000 and then 10,000s and multiples of that as to what may be in the herd and what may be in the future, it's obviously beneficial for all up here. So some of the other stuff we threw together as well. Port costs sometimes come up in discussions through. I mean, Port Hedland's the lowest port cost of any of the ports on the West Australia coast, and did a little bit of research as well around Queensland as well, and the actual the charges that the port levies is a nominal levy, I guess, on cattle out through the port there. The port would never make money. A business model run out of what their charges are for live export through there. So it's very much the facilitation, diversification of trade through the port that we're after. Port Hedland's got the multiple berth options. Once again, when you start to compare around, we've got 3 berths in Port Hedland that can handle live export. If one's not available for another cargo, then there's 2 others that we can manage through. And obviously there's the future, some of the other forums we've been talking, future-proofing Port Hedland with the Lumsden Point facility, which is out expressions of interest for the development of that through the private sector have already started. I think we've got a short listing of preferred options through there now, so that's just a work in progress now through, so certainly doing some work on that front. As I say, other things mainly about the pricing and the transport savings that are on through there. So look, those are just out there if you just have a bit of a look at. They might promote a little bit of discussion. They might promote a couple of questions. They might promote a few stories. I don't know. Also threw a couple of, I guess, some of the myths and facts on the back. The second page, just for a bit of information. Port Hedland has 3 public berths for live export trade through the port. None of those berths are equipped to be able to handle iron ore, so any discussions about iron ore pushing live export out of the port, it just can't happen. As I've said before, I wouldn't have a job if we put an iron ore carrier on one of these berths because it would be aground for about 6 months, so it just physically can't happen. So the options are through there, the priorities that are on it. Certainly do have priorities in Port Hedland. It's a very big port. World's largest bulk export port, and by quite some way, but because of that we have a lot of services in through the port. We've got 20 odd tugs and increasing, a second towage company coming in with a licence very soon. We've got about 25 trained marine pilots through there, all of the on-water infrastructure you could need through the port, so the actual opportunities to be able to get a ship in and get a ship out are probably better than most other ports in through there. And the live export trade is ideally suited. It works on the opposite tidal scales to what the large iron ore carriers do through the port. So we've only got a channel of about 14.5 metres depth in Port Hedland. These large carriers are going out to up to 20 metres depth, so they're maximising the high tides. All of the rest of the, I guess the lower tides and the neap tidal ranges are available for other cargoes, which includes live export shipments. So there's probably more benefits that come with that than there are the negatives through with it. Certainly, if we wanted to sail a cattle ship on the shoulder of a very high tide, well, that's not going to occur through that time, but it would be a half-hour separation after that. We may be able to do it. So So these are some of the bits and pieces that we can help out with, just to answer a question, or if somebody's heard, well, maybe this happens. There are certainly, I mean, we're a busy port and there are certain restrictions we have there through it, but none of them are insurmountable for any of the trades that we handle through there. We have areas of our port which operate under mines legislation. But the live export trade doesn't operate under that. We're working under different legislation, the same legislation that applies on the property itself, so there's no difference in that regard. So it's just safety is safety. We're all compliant with that, and we're all compliant with all the other regulatory requirements as well, such as biosecurity, which has obviously been heavily mentioned through here, and other regulators on the marine side of things through the port. So look, I've only a very short time slot today, and that was fine for me, but I'm doing the case of just getting the face out there. Anybody has any interest in different trades, cargo trades, different parts of it, any questions, a bit of history about the place there through, or just some general stuff on Port Hedland, because it is a lot of state-of-the-art equipment in Port Hedland. It's very much cutting edge, and it's always the under-keel clearance systems which allow you to sail these larger ships is leading edge. It's leading the world. There's no other port in the world which has that level of technology operating on the basis that we do through. So there's many other cutting edge things up here through, and we're keen to get cutting edge on everything, so that we're the best port for all trades through here. So not about taking business away from anywhere else, but if the business is on the doorstep and we can facilitate it and gets done safely, animals are well looked after, and everybody makes a bucket, so it's a win-win through. So I'll be around for this afternoon for a little while, but I'm happy to take some questions as well now or later, and tomorrow I'll come back as well for a purely visual participation. Tell that to any of the horses or the animals around. I'm not going to go and try jumping on one of their backs or anything like that. They normally run the other way. So, but look, happy to have a discussion with anybody about that. And look, if any questions, happy to field them now or over a beer later. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jon. Did anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I just had a comment. I think it's worth noting that Jon is really on board with animal welfare, and I think, as with all the ports, but Port Hedland has been doing a great job of sort of engaging with the department on animal welfare and making sure everything's up to scratch. Yeah, I think it'll be good when the boat does go out.
Yeah, thanks, Sally. Yes, look, we're obviously keen to make sure that we're talking to everybody involved in the process, and as I say, some of the infrastructure that the port has invested in over the last couple of years is in there to facilitate the trade. It's and we certainly work in other forums with other ports as well. As part of Ports Australia, we're regularly in meetings with Fremantle Port, Broome Ports, and to Geraldton Port in particular of recent times, looking at infrastructure. I mean, we went to Darwin to look at some infrastructure because that was supposedly the best in the business. So they gave us their ideas, we modified those for our own, and now we're talking to others as well in that space as well. More recently, Geraldton, about them taking our ideas and working. So it's very much collaborative to get the whole industry sort of working well together. So, but thanks, Al.